Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephania Cox. Here are today's top stories. Amazon Web Services went down this morning, causing worldwide outages for users and online platforms alike. Another one of President Biden's vaccine mandates gets blocked. Now federal contractors won't have to get vaccinated by early next year. Biden says the U.S. will respond to Russia with strong economic measures if it invades Ukraine. He and Russian President Putin talked for 2 hours, mainly about Russia's escalating tension with Ukraine. Microsoft shut down a Chinese hacking group's cyber spying ring. The websites were running in nearly 30 countries, including the U.S. On this day, 80 years ago, the Japanese military launched a surprise attack on a U.S. naval base in Hawaii, killing over 2,300 service members. Multiple events were held in New York City today to honor the victims of Pearl Harbor. Amazon experienced widespread outages this morning. Thousands of users reported the outages on major services hosted through Amazon.
Amazon Web Services went down on Tuesday morning. Large online providers had limited to no service on platforms hosted through AWS for several hours. AWS posted a message on its health service dashboard at 8:22 a.m. Pacific Time, stating that they were investigating increased error rates for the AWS Management Console. The problem cited was API and console issues in the U.S. East 1 region. AWS did not cite a specific cause of the outage.
Today with the Amazon outage, we're unable to get picks for the customers, so they're unable to pick up their items, and for returns, we're unable to return for them as we can't scan their return labels.
Outages were reported worldwide, with the majority in North America. Users made nearly 27,000 reports of having issues with Amazon services, according to Down Detector. Affected Amazon services included video streaming service Prime Video, Venmo, Alexa, and Ring security cameras. Services hosted on AWS like Disney Plus and the Associated Press also experienced outages. Reports decreased over the following hours but had not been all resolved by the afternoon.
At around 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Amazon said many services have already recovered, but they did not specify a time when they expect everything to be back online. And another blow to President Biden's federal vaccine mandates. A U.S. District Court judge just halted the mandate for federal contractors. This is an expansion of a ruling that previously applied to only 3 states. NTD's Shen Yun has more.
U.S. District Judge R. Stan Baker on Tuesday granted a preliminary injunction in a lawsuit challenging President Biden's vaccine mandate for all federal contractors. The judge wrote the plaintiffs will likely succeed in their claim that the president exceeded the authorization given to him by Congress. The mandate was supposed to take effect January 4th. 7 states, plus the University of Georgia's Board of Regents, sued over the mandate in October. They say the mandate applies not only to contractor employees working on federal contracts, but also any employee that may have contact with someone working on a federal contract. There are no exceptions for employees that work alone, outside, or even exclusively remotely. Idaho Governor Brad Little is celebrating the ruling, saying yet another one of Biden's vaccine mandates has been temporarily shut down because the states, including Idaho, took a stand against his unprecedented government overreach into Americans' lives and businesses. This is the 3rd Biden vaccine mandate blocked by the courts in recent weeks. Federal judges also blocked the vaccine mandates for healthcare workers and for private businesses with over 100 employees. Chenny Wu, NTD News.
President Biden had a 2-hour virtual meeting with Russian leader Vladimir Putin today. It was the first one since they last met in the summer. The top focus of the talk was Russia's escalating tension with Ukraine. Here are the details.
During the meeting, President Biden reiterated to Russian President Putin America's support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says if Russia were to further invade Ukraine, Biden and U.S. allies will respond with strong economic measures.
We would provide additional defensive materiel to the Ukrainians above and beyond that which we are already providing. And we would fortify our NATO allies on the eastern flank with additional capabilities in response to such an escalation.
Russia has been stationing a record number of troops along its border with Ukraine recently, but the Kremlin denies that it wants to invade Ukraine and says the troops deployed are defensive. The White House says Biden called for de-escalation and a return to diplomacy.
As I said before, the discussion between President Biden and President Putin was direct and straightforward. There was a lot of give and take. There was no finger wagging, but the president was crystal clear about where the United States stands on all of these issues.
Ukraine has long been wanting to join NATO, but Russia is warning against NATO expanding eastward. Democratic Congresswoman Dina Titus tells NTD she wants Biden to stand strong against Putin.
We don't want to go to war. We don't want to send troops over there on the border with Ukraine, but he's got to let him know he means business, and that may be business, may be economic sanctions.
The White House says Biden and Putin also talked about strategic stability, ransomware, as well as working together on regional issues such as Iran.
House Democrats are urging the Senate to pave a pathway to citizenship for immigrants. The House already passed the Build Back Better bill, which does include some immigration reform, but some say it doesn't go far enough. Today, Democratic lawmakers joined protesters outside of the Capitol to push for more. NTD's Melina Wisecup reports from Washington, D.C.
Here right outside of the Capitol building, a large group of immigration activists was joined by a couple of Democratic members of Congress. They're urging the Senate to pave a pathway to citizenship in Biden's Build Back Better bill at all costs, even if that means overturning the Senate parliamentarians' advice.
So where we are at is that the Senate needs to step up, override the parliamentarian.
Yes.
Okay? The parliamentarian is not elected.
Yes.
It is not an elected position. And the parliamentarian has been overridden and dismissed in the past.
The Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth McDonough is the person who oversees Senate rules. She has twice turned down Democrat proposals to include immigration reform in the Build Back Better bill. This is because she says a pathway to citizenship is a policy issue, not a budget matter. Therefore, McDonough ruled that immigration reform should be handled in a separate bill, rather than be lumped with the budget bill that Democrats are proposing. The House already passed Biden's Build Back Better bill, which would grant work permits to 6.5 million illegal immigrants and protects them from deportation. But activists and some House Democrats are calling for more.
And justice demands a pathway to citizenship. A pathway to citizenship.
100 House lawmakers signed a letter agreeing that if the Senate adds a pathway to citizenship in the final bill, the House will sign off on it. How confident are you that the Senate will add that pathway to citizenship and it will come back to the House and pass?
Well, I think that that's something that's been discussed and vetted by the leadership on both sides in the House and in the Senate. There are no surprises here, so I'm optimistic that the vote there in the Senate to pass it.
Senate Leader Chuck Schumer is aiming to pass the Build Back Better bill by Christmas, and this group is hopeful that with or without the parliamentarians' approval, the final version will make substantial changes to the U.S. immigration policy. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
The GOP is inviting guests to let out their grievances about the tax hikes embedded in Biden's spending bill. One small business owner testified, pleading to lawmakers don't tax small business owners to death. NTD's Miguel Moreno reports.
Engraved on the facade of the IRS building in Washington is a quote by a former Supreme Court justice. Taxes are what we pay for a civilized society. But how much is too much taxation? This question is being debated now as lawmakers consider President Biden's Build Back Better spending package.
If we get hit with what is being proposed, I cannot continue to pay bonuses, contribute to 401k plans, benefits like we do today. My employees get hurt.
That's John Sullivan, president of Dana Wallboard Supply, testifying at a virtual Republican House committee meeting. Sullivan says his small business has 23 employees and he makes $1 million a year, but takes home far less than $400,000. He says the country's inflation in combination with the tax changes in Biden's bill would force him to pass on the burden to employees.
Everyone in Washington, D.C. talks about listening to Main Street and making sure we aren't hurting small businesses. This directly hurts small businesses.
Biden's spending package would do a lot. According to business law firm Stinson, the legislation would charge some business owners with a new 3.8% tax on income. Stinson says some individuals with businesses and an adjusted gross income of $400,000 would be affected by this rule. As Republicans highlight the bill's impact on taxes, Democrats on the Hill are drawing attention to other parts of the spending package.
Build Back Better will make it cheaper for parents to raise their kids by providing the largest investment in child care in American history. It'll help our economy. Wherever you go, you hear about shortages of labor. One of the main reasons is inadequate child care. By expanding child care, we're going to help parents get back to work and expand the labor force in a very significant way.
Senate Democrats want to pass the Build Back Better bill before Christmas. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Several GOP lawmakers released a report today highlighting what they call the unusually cruel treatment that January 6 detainees are receiving in the D.C. jail. They are demanding an end to what they say is a two-tiered justice system in America.
As members of Congress, we're calling on our colleagues to step up, and we have to bring this to an end. We need a good justice system, not one that persecutes people.
At the press conference, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and 3 other House members released the report entitled Unusually Cruel, an Eyewitness Report from the D.C. Jail. In early November, Representatives Greene and Gomert got an opportunity to visit the January 6 detainees. They were shocked at the conditions in the D.C. jail and the inhumane treatment the detainees received, including solitary confinement, lack of medical treatment, and denial of access to their attorneys.
Pretrial confinement is not a place for punishment. That can only come after conviction. And yet here what we've seen in the D.C. jail amounts to a great deal of punishment.
Congressman Matt Gaetz said what they are demanding is a fair justice system for everyone.
It's the January 6 detainees who are denied basic access to medical care and constitutional rights today. But tomorrow, it could be the school board parents. The day after that, the rest of us, all of you.
They also criticized the House January 6 committee for focusing only on waging a political war against Republicans.
But yet they're unwilling to go to the D.C. jail. They're unwilling to release videotapes. They're unwilling to talk about the real things that happened that day. They just want to extend it to keep on attacking Trump.
They called on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to release all the videos off Capitol Hill on January 6 so people can know what really happened on that day. They believe that's the only way to heal the nation.
Former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows has decided not to cooperate with the House January 6 committee. The committee said today that it's ready to pursue contempt charges against him. Meadows' attorney told Fox News that Meadows decided not to cooperate because the committee showed that it plans to look into subjects protected by executive privilege. Meadows had already begun to cooperate by providing documents to the committee and had previously said he would answer questions that he believed were not protected by executive privilege. The January 6 committee has subpoenaed Meadows to appear for a deposition tomorrow. The chairman of the committee, Congressman Benny Thompson, says if indeed Mr. Meadows refuses to appear, the Select Committee will be left no choice but to advance contempt proceedings and recommend that the body in which Mr. Meadows once served refer him for criminal prosecution. And President Biden withdraws his pick for a top bank regulating position after strong pushback from Senate Republicans and several Democrats. Saleh Omarova, a professor at Cornell Law School, drew criticism for her proposals to dramatically centralize banking and her thesis on Karl Marx, the founder of communism. Biden said in a statement that Omarova asked him to withdraw her nomination, and he agreed to do so. And San Diego prosecutors have filed charges against several members of the anarcho-communist group Antifa. This is for allegedly committing violent criminal acts against Trump supporters at a rally earlier this year. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
Those seen here dressed in black are members of the anarcho-communist group Antifa. This video, taken on January 9th, shows suspected Antifa members assaulting Trump supporters during a Patriot March along Pacific Beach in San Diego. Now, several of these Antifa members are believed to be facing criminal charges. According to the San Diego Union Tribune, prosecutors on Monday charged at least 7 individuals who were identified as self-described anti-fascists in connection with 8 alleged assaults that occurred during the January Patriot March. The charges include assault, illegal use of tear gas, and conspiring to commit a riot. This case is believed to be one of the first to bring conspiracy charges against members of Antifa. The San Diego Union Tribune reports that the individuals are accused of using tear gas, flagpoles, and other items to attack the Trump supporters. Videos on social media, such as this one, appear to match the description of the attacks. While bystanders documented some acts of violence committed by the pro-Trump demonstrators, as seen here, the Office of District Attorney Summer Stephan said in a news release that video evidence analysis shows that overwhelmingly, the violence in this incident was perpetrated by the Antifa affiliates and was not a mutual fray. The DA's office said that regardless of the political affiliation of victims, prosecutors file charges when evidence supports the allegations beyond a reasonable doubt, because the right to peacefully protest must be protected. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
Following a U.S. federal court order, Microsoft took down dozens of websites linked to a Chinese hacking group which conducts intelligence gathering operations around the world. NTD's Evelyn Lee has the story.
China's cyber spying network has taken a hit. Microsoft said on Monday that it had seized 42 websites from a state-backed Chinese hacking group known as Nickel or APT-15. The group was likely using the websites to gather intelligence from foreign ministries, think tanks, and human rights organizations. Microsoft received permission from a U.S. federal court to seize these sites. The hackers targeted the U.S. and nearly 30 other countries across the globe. Microsoft has been tracking Nickel since 2016 and analyzing its hacking activities since 2019. The company's vice president, Tom Bird, wrote in a post saying there is often a correlation between Nickel's targets and China's geopolitical interests. Microsoft found Nickel's attacks used third-party VPNs or stolen credentials collected from spear phishing campaigns. Spear phishing is when hackers pose as trusted sources to scam people and businesses for personal data. Microsoft says Nickel's attacks are highly sophisticated, but the company adds there is nearly always one goal: to install unobtrusive malware that allows for surveillance and data theft.
President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden visited the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. on the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. The President and First Lady held a moment of silence in front of a wreath at the center of the memorial. The White House says it contains one wild sunflower, the state flower of Kansas, in honor of the late Senator Bob Dole. The veteran, who died Sunday, was seriously wounded during World War II. The Bidens also laid a bouquet in front of the New Jersey pillar in honor of Jill Biden's late father, who served as a Navy signalman in the war. And New York City also honored the service members who made the ultimate sacrifice 80 years ago at Pearl Harbor. Over 2,300 U.S. military personnel were killed when they were ambushed by Japanese aircraft. NTD's Jason Perry has the story.
On this day in 1941, the lives of many people would be changed forever when Japan launched a surprise attack on a U.S. naval base in Hawaii. Now, this ship behind me, the Intrepid, they began construction on it about a week before that attack. It is now docked here in New York City and is a museum.
Though the attack severely damaged our Pacific fleet, it could never destroy our resolve. In fact, it strengthened it. It was borne out by, I believe, Admiral Yamamoto, who said, "I fear all we did was awaken a sleeping giant."
The daughter of a late Pearl Harbor survivor said during the attack, her father saw Japanese planes flying so low that he could see the pilots' faces.
His commander handed him a loaded .45 caliber pistol and said, 6 bullets are for the Japanese, 1 is for you. Don't be taken prisoner.
And the son of another late Pearl Harbor survivor said his father saw one of the very first tragedies while he was attempting to return fire with his comrade, John.
They went back inside, realizing that there was so few American guns firing. He and 3 others thought about the machine guns in the planes. They ran without hesitation. John got himself a .30 caliber machine gun from a plane. He had it over his shoulder and was run across the field when he was gunned down by a Japanese Zero.
I talked to Gallela on the deck of the Intrepid and asked how the military shaped his father.
I would sometimes get mad at him because he would go out and do things for people and like almost get him in trouble. And I would say, why are you doing that? He goes, Michael, if you can't help somebody, then you shouldn't be on this earth.
And on the other side of New York City, the Brooklyn Council of the Kings County Veterans of Foreign Wars held a wreath-laying ceremony in honor of the victims of Pearl Harbor. They expressed the importance of never forgetting.
The history doesn't really discriminate. It brings out all of our good points, bad points, but that's where we learn. We learn from the good as well as the bad.
If you forget what we did before or where we were before, you'll repeat it.
Anything you want to add?
I miss you, Dad.
Today has been a day of mixed emotions. Some people were visibly sad as they spoke of the sacrifices made at Pearl Harbor, and others said they were proud of their resilience Americans showed as they came together and defended the country 80 years ago. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
A statue of General Robert E. Lee that was removed in Charlottesville, Virginia, is set to be melted down. The City Council has decided to turn it into a new piece of public art by an African-American heritage center. The statue was at the center of a rally back in August 2017 that turned deadly. The city removed the statue along with another statue of Confederate General Thomas Stonewall Jackson this year in July. The Jefferson School African-American Heritage Center now gets to use the statue to make public art after it's melted down. The center says they hope to, quote, create something that transforms what was once toxic in our public space into something beautiful that can be more reflective of our entire community's social values. And coming up, in California, more law enforcement officers could be removed from duty if they do not get vaccinated this month. And more police may return to patrol in Oakland, California, following previous defunding efforts. The city's council is expected to vote on the police budget today. In Southern California, police and firefighters are facing termination for not complying with the vaccination mandate. Here's NTD's Eileen Ang with more details.
As of Monday, 113 Los Angeles City firefighters were placed on leave without pay for failing to meet the city's COVID-19 vaccination mandate for municipal employees. The policy requires city employees to get vaccinated by December 18th. In the meantime, those who are unvaccinated need to submit to testing paid by the employee. A spokesperson for the Los Angeles Fire Department told NTD that the number of off-duty firefighters changes daily due to members updating their vaccination and testing status. In November, the department sent 222 notices to those who had not yet submitted their vaccination status or requested an exemption. Currently, 83% of the fire department is fully vaccinated. They intend to fill any vacancies with recent training graduates. Similarly, in San Diego, at least 160 police officers are also facing termination for not complying with the city's vaccination mandate within the next 30 days. Previously, the San Diego Police Officer Association told the mayor they will not agree to mandatory vaccinations. On November 19th, the mayor announced that all city employees must be vaccinated by December 1st. About 65% of the officers are vaccinated. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
More police may be returning to the city of Oakland after previous defunding efforts. The city council is expected to vote today whether or not to bring more officers onto the streets, following reportedly nearly 30,000 crimes this year. We hear more from NTD's David Lamb.
People have differing opinions on adding more police presence and academies. A council member said there is a vacancy of officer positions that they approved in June. Oakland City Council held a special meeting Tuesday morning.
This is not about increasing the number of officers. It is really about filling those positions and improving the recruitment, graduation, and retention systems.
Oakland's mayor previously said the police are understaffed and there's not enough officers as were promised to voters. She said through salary and equipment savings, the $5.8 million plan would not cut funding from other city programs.
What I am proposing is that we increase police staffing immediately by 60 officers.
Schaaf said they currently have 676 officers, shy of their targeted numbers. Some spoke in favor of the change.
So I do believe crime is the number one problem. I see a lot of complaints about police overtime, and what else can we do? We don't have enough officers, so that's kind of a moot point with me.
Opponents said that poverty is the cause of the crime and would like more money into violence prevention. Some referred to a report from the Anti-Police Terror Project.
That if OPD would quit wasting resources and responding to non-violent calls like towing cars. Why do you need a badge and a gun to tow a car? If they did that, they could effectively redeploy 62 police officers to focus on violent crime.
The mayor said she wants to address the root cause of the crimes and says that having adequate staff is part of it. Oakland PD reported that they investigated 129 homicides this year, compared to last year's 106. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
The holiday season is about giving, and California Bay Area police departments say they are giving free rides to jail to anyone who steals other people's packages. We hear more from NTD's Cynthia Kai on how a local police department is addressing package theft.
The Sunnyvale Department of Public Safety is coordinating with residents by planting decoy packages at doorsteps throughout Sunnyvale. The goal is to catch people who steal packages from people's doorsteps. In a Twitter post, Sunnyvale Police wrote, "Steal a package and you may end up with more than what you wanted."
Historically, we do see a little bit of an uptick in property-related crimes, burglaries, and package thefts. So during this time, we are proactive in ensuring that, our community is safe from these types of crimes.
The police department did not disclose what is in the packages, but says the packages look like any other package a person might receive on their doorsteps. Captain Siu admits most thieves are actually caught through other methods.
During this time, we put together what we call a burglary suppression detail, and that is a team of officers that specifically target this type of crime, whether it's burglaries, package thefts, or any property-related crimes.
Decoy packages are not new. Sunnyvale, like many other cities around the Bay Area, have used this method before. In past years, police departments have put GPS tracking devices inside of decoy packages in hopes of finding and arresting thieves. Police also encourage people to take precautions to avoid potential package theft.
So being vigilant, calling us when they see something suspicious, making arrangements for deliveries while they're home, or maybe arranging for curbside pickup, things like that.
Whether or not thieves are charged for their crimes depends on each county's district attorneys. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
Coming up, the U.S. won't send officials to the Beijing Winter Olympics. Now, America's key allies are weighing their options. And China launches a campaign to discredit the U.S. and Western democracies and promote what it calls Chinese-style democracy. More on that when we return with NTD News.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
In less than 2 months, the 2022 Winter Olympics will open in Beijing. But the pandemic isn't the only thing casting a shadow on the event. A diplomatic boycott has been confirmed by the White House as the Chinese Communist regime accuses the U.S. of betraying Olympic principles. Key U.S. allies are choosing their sides, but seem to have divided opinions. Here's more.
The U.S. announced on Monday that its officials will boycott the Beijing Winter Olympics, citing China's human rights abuses, including genocide against minority Muslims in China's Xinjiang region, though U.S. athletes are free to travel there and compete. In Beijing, China's foreign ministry spokesman said in a media briefing that Beijing opposes the diplomatic boycott and promised resolute countermeasures for the U.S. in response. He didn't give further details. Following America's lead, Australia has also decided not to send officials to China for the Winter Games. But the nation is still discussing whether to send its ambassador to China and whether to call its action an official diplomatic boycott. Canada, Britain, the Netherlands, and Japan say they're still considering their positions. New Zealand noted it wouldn't send officials to Beijing, but added the decision was based largely on pandemic concerns. France explained there will be a coordinated action within the European Union to tackle the issue, while the incoming German foreign minister is the latest senior figure to float the idea of boycott. Despite their positions, the EU remains hesitant. In the face of growing calls from human rights groups, International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach defended the choice to hold the Games in Beijing. He said on Monday that the Olympics cannot solve problems that generations of politicians have not solved.
And ahead of the U.S.'s Democracy Summit later this week, China appears to cast a shadow over the event, although it was not invited. Beijing issued a lengthy paper criticizing U.S.-style democracy while praising its one-party system.
Their domestic governance is messed up.
The Chinese Communist Party took American-style democracy to task on Saturday. In a news conference, the party claimed that China has its own form of democracy. And the party says that its form is superior in a white paper titled China, Democracy That Works. In the white paper, the Communist Party praises the so-called virtues of its one-party model, calling it socialist democracy. The white paper says democracy and dictatorship are not contradictory because they are both to ensure that the people are the owners of the country. The CCP goes on to say suppressing the very few is to protect the majority, and dictatorship is a tool to achieve democracy. The paper then sharply criticizes what it calls U.S.-style democracy, calling it a game of money politics and rule of the few over the many. The move comes just ahead of President Biden's Global Democracy Summit later this week. The summit invites representatives from more than 100 countries, but not China. The CCP appears to feel threatened by the summit, which it sees as a pushback against its political system. CCP officials hit back, saying the summit divides countries and points fingers at others. The White House slammed the criticism. Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the summit discusses ways to stand up for democracy around the world and, quote, "That's nothing we're going to apologize for." Beijing is trying to portray its system as more effective than the U.S. model. But some netizens question if the CCP really represents the majority of Chinese people. One netizen says, at least 1 billion or so of the population likely don't belong to the CCP's classification of people.
And China is just one step away from North Korea when it comes to press freedom. That's one of the conclusions from a new report by Reporters Without Borders. NTD's Paris correspondent David Vives spoke with one of the authors of the report.
The situation for journalists in China is getting progressively worse. That's according to a new report released Tuesday by non-profit organization Reporters Without Borders, or RSF, titled The Great Leap Backwards of Journalism in China. The study highlights the Chinese regime reaching new heights in the suppression of information.
The Chinese regime is currently designing a model of society that is based against journalism.
Alviani says 10 years ago it was still possible for journalists to publish independent reports from the country. But today, he says, Beijing is extending its control over all subjects and ranks only slightly above North Korea in press freedom.
There have been increased pressure and control on the mainstream media, and also a very violent campaign against individual journalists and bloggers.
According to the RSF report, the regime uses sophisticated surveillance technologies to suppress information.
Now the regime is trying to suppress the possibility for the public to comment on information and to share information on the social media. So after having suppressed the producers of information, the regime is now trying to suppress the receivers of information.
In order to obtain and renew their press cards, journalists must download a spy app called Study the Great Nation. According to a German cybersecurity firm, the app could enable the collection of personal information without the user's knowledge. Among other features, it would have the capability to modify files, download applications, make phone calls, and turn on the device's microphone.
It is known that this app can be used to spy on the cell phone contents of the journalists. So journalists in China who download this app basically don't have any more privacy on their smartphone.
According to RSF, at least 127 journalists and press defenders are now in jail in China, a dozen of whom are in life-threatening situations. David Vives, NTD News.
Are you spending too much time on social media? Many of us are. Now, Instagram developers say they want to make younger users aware of that. NTD's Arian Pazdar has more.
Time really flies when I'm scrolling through Instagram, and that's even more so for children. They are drawn to their phones and social media platforms. But soon, parents will know just how much time their child spends on Instagram. Instagram announced the new feature for parents on Tuesday. The app will also be sending out notifications to young users, reminding them to take a break from scrolling. The head of Instagram published a video on his Twitter account explaining the changes.
This, by the way, is part of a broader effort to try and give people more control over their experience of Instagram. Ultimately, you know what's best for you when it comes to how you use the app.
Experts say using too much social media can have bad outcomes for young adults.
We're hearing more and more about loneliness, anxiety, and depression. And even what we see commonly in our teens and our young adults that we're working with is this kind of insane perfectionism, that they live in this world where they're so afraid to mess up.
But the timing of the new feature's release is probably intentional. On Wednesday, the head of Instagram will testify before a Senate committee.
Just one day before they have to go and speak in front of Congress. And certainly there will be many detractors who will say that this method is less for mental health and data security than it is to be able to stand on that stage with the spotlight of the federal government on them and say, look at what we just did.
Those safety defaults.
Whistleblower reports show that Facebook and Instagram both know the harm their apps cause children and teens. Arian Pastar, NTD News, New York.
Kellogg says the majority of its U.S. cereal plant workers have voted against a new 5-year contract. The company says it is now forced to hire permanent replacements after employees extended a strike that started more than 2 months ago. Temporary replacements have already been working at the company's cereal plants in Michigan, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. The company says unrealistic expectations created by the union meant none of its 6 offers were put to a vote. The union has support from several politicians, including Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Kellogg says there is no further bargaining scheduled, and it has no plans to meet with the union. And private jet sharing is getting so popular, even billionaires who usually charter an entire plane are also joining the program. NTD's Phil Zoe finds out why.
Uber-style private jet sharing is getting more and more popular.
This is a much different flying experience with much more included than you would have on a basic economy fare package in commercial.
Travel expert Jen Ruiz says some private flights are becoming more affordable.
So now we have airlines that are offering this semi-private experiences with rates starting as low as $129. So it can be really, really affordable for people that want to fly.
Doug Gallen is editor-in-chief at Private Jet Card Comparisons. He oversees offers from over 200 private jet companies.
Private aviation is seeing record demand at all levels.
He says one reason is because of the CCP virus pandemic.
Private aviation has less than 20 touch points compared to over 700 if you're flying with the airlines when you go through the terminal.
Gallen says airports were slow to open up. Connection flights were delayed and direct flights were less frequent.
They found that those trips that they were doing in 1 or 2 days, all of a sudden it was taking 2 or 3 days.
Add to that climate shaming, when environmental activists and even shareholders want execs at large companies to cut off the use of large private planes. Some billionaires are turning to private jet sharing.
It's a way to fly under the radar, but still fly with that similar level that you want to be in.
Phil Zoe, NTD News.
Coming up, Britain is considering lending more support to Ukraine to help the country defend itself against Russia. That's according to a British lawmaker. And in Indonesia, the search for survivors continues after a deadly volcanic eruption on Saturday. Dozens have died and thousands have lost their homes. That and more when we return here on NTD News. A British junior foreign minister told Parliament today that Britain stands by Ukraine and is considering extending more defensive support to the former Soviet republic.
We are deeply concerned by Russia's pattern of military build-ups in and around Ukraine and are closely monitoring the situation. The UK is very clear. Any military incursion by Russia into Ukraine would be a strategic mistake. The Russian government should expect significant strategic consequences. The costs of an incursion would be catastrophically high.
US intelligence suggests Russia could be planning a multi-front offensive on Ukraine as early as next year, involving up to 175,000 troops. The Kremlin denies it plans to invade and says the West is gripped by Russia-phobia.
At least one person died after a block of apartments collapsed early this morning at a seaside resort town in southern France. It's thought to be caused by an explosion. One resident said he was watching a movie when he heard the building collapse. He called the fire department before running out and taking photos of the collapsed 3-story building. Local authorities said 4 people were rescued and 4 were still missing mid-morning, believed to be buried under the rubble. Rescue teams detected a strong smell of gas when they arrived at the scene, which is about 30 minutes away from the city of Marseille. Rescue workers in Indonesia are still searching for survivors of a volcanic eruption that left dozens dead and thousands displaced in the country's East Java province, even as the volcano continues to spew ash. NTD's Chenny Wu tells us more.
In Indonesia, rescue workers dig through ash and debris after Mount Semeru, the tallest mountain on the island of Java and one of the country's most active volcanoes, erupted on Saturday. Java is home to more than half of Indonesia's population.
There was no warning, no advice, nothing. A lot of people there were killed.
At least 34 people have been killed and thousands have been forced to evacuate from their homes. It's a fight against time to find survivors before it's too late.
I feel very sorry, especially when I try to imagine hot ashes falling at that time. Imagine the feeling and scream of a mother who tried to calm by cuddling her child. That is very sad. I myself couldn't stand to see the corpse of a mother hugging her child in burnt condition.
At the foot of Mount Semeru, damaged houses line up on the side of the road, covered by a thick layer of now hardened volcanic ash. Indonesian President Joko Widodo promised Tuesday to bolster evacuation efforts and repair damaged homes after visiting the disaster zone. The government search team, formed by the police, the military, and the Disaster Mitigation Agency, are combing through the plot of land where houses and a sand mine company used to stand. And rescue workers are reminded of how dangerous their work is as the active volcano continues to spew hot air in the background. Chenny Wu, NTD News.
Coming up, jolly celebration comes early this year at a Christmas fair in San Francisco. Visitors enjoyed the fair from the comfort of their cars. And in Germany, one couple just set a world record for setting up the most Christmas trees in one place. We get a look at their house and its few hundred uniquely decorated Christmas trees. That and more here on NTD News.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. Before all this started, I had already written in my memoir, I dedicate this book to anyone that's looking for hope. Well, right now, we're all looking for hope. I believe that my story is going to bring inspiration and hope to everyone. By the time you're done reading my book, you will believe that with God, all things are possible. To thank you all for your support, I'm offering some of my best prices ever on MyPillow products, including this exclusive bundle. You get my book and these 5 MyPillows. They all have beautiful scenes and verses from the Bible, such as Isaiah 41:10. Do not fear, for I am with you. This 6-pack bundle is regularly $219. Now it's just $99.98 and free shipping with your promo code. Go to mypillow.com and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below. Thank you and God bless.
A popular Christmas attraction resumes in Northern California, this time in the form of a drive-thru. We hear more from NTD's Eileen Ang.
The Great Dickens Christmas Fair in San Francisco is back for 3 weekends. This year, it's a drive-thru. Visitors enter from this main entrance of the Cow Palace and make their way through London. People wait in a 1-hour line to get tastes of the Dickens Fair.
One may see tableaus of small parts of Christmas Carol, the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future, the specter of Jacob Marley, and Scrooge's redemption at the Cratchit's house.
Through pantomime, actors convey snippets of a Christmas Carol at each stop. People can order food and merchandise upon arrival and pick them up towards the end of the drive-thru. One shop owner prepared paint kits in boxes for people to paint their own ornaments at home.
And the paint box is a complete box of all their paints, their ribbons, their brushes, their mixing trays, instructions, and 4 different items to paint. Plus gift bags to go with it, and how to make other colors. So it's interactive. And so the patrons who always came for that traditional ornament got to have that tradition last year and this year.
Visitors can park their cars at the Covent Garden stage to watch performances.
Yes, we've been coming here for more than 10 years. It's so different, and I really miss the in-person experience, but they are so creative. I mean, just this whole performance is amazing. And the food is the same. It's always wonderful. We're really enjoying that. And I just love the spirit here. It's wonderful.
They're very good at entertaining you during the interim times. And it's been very good. But I've enjoyed this here. The singing was okay, but the comedian was wonderful. The juggler is tremendous. And then he entertained us while we were waiting in line to come in, too. So it was very well done on that end.
Most waited about an hour. Some pointed out parts that can be improved.
Yeah, the in-person is so much different. You know, this is still nice that they did this, but it's, you got,
Maybe if they just had food vendors walking around selling pre-packaged stuff already, it's just a lot faster.
I hope that all and sundry will come and celebrate just a little bit of the Dickens Christmas Fair with us until we're all able to join one another again.
The Great Dickens Christmas Fair expects to resume in-person celebrations next year. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
And in the northwestern German state of Lower Saxony, one family has taken decorating the tree to a whole new level ahead of the holidays. Instead of one, they've rounded up hundreds of Christmas trees, so many that the German Record Institute presented them with New World Record certificate. Let's take a look.
This apartment is packed to the brim with illuminated trees, and no two of them are exactly the same. The unparalleled passion for Christmas has earned the Yarrowman family another world record.
Hello. My name is Thomas Jarrowman. I am 55 years old, and I really do have the world record for having the most Christmas trees in one place.
After a decade of embracing the tradition, the household has yet to face competition for their record. This year, they've outdone themselves once again. The couple set up a total of 444 trees by hand, all decorated head to toe with ornaments and lights. Even the bedroom is overflowing. A judge arrived to count the trees before granting the 2021 record.
What is important for the record is that the houses are fully decorated. They have to look the same as if you just had one in your living room, so with candles or light garlands with baubles, etc. As you imagine a typical Christmas tree. The size, though, is not important.
The display involves more than 10,000 Christmas balls and 300 strings of fairy lights. And on top of that, a variety of festive colors and themes like superheroes, smiley faces, and much more are present. The family started putting up trees months before Christmas. They finished the display prior to the country's first Advent, which fell on the first Sunday in December.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selected videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.